Hey, what's up, guys? This is Brad with Despite Fitness, and want to make a kind of a fast video and discuss something that was brought up by a friend of mine. And so I don't want to call my friend out, by name or anything, but essentially she asked a question that I think is a good question and could help a lot of people. And so I've already called her and kind of spoke my piece on it, specifically to her, but in doing so, it kind of crossed my mind that this would really help out a lot of people potentially at varying points in your lifting career. And so it seemed like a good idea to make a video out of it, and that's what we're going to do. So the question was, powerlifters, send me advice and articles about getting your head in it and not doubting yourself. I hit these higher weights, and even though I know I can hit them, I struggle because I doubt myself. Nationals is near, is getting close, and I need to make sure everything's right. So essentially what she's saying is that she's having a hard time getting her head in the game as the percentages are rising, doubting herself and having some fear. So the first question I asked was, which lift? Which lift is intimidating? To which she said, squats. So squats is kind of what I figured it was, because it really is, of the three lifts, the most dominating. Because you're standing up, but this weight is on your back, attempting to force you down. Just so from a from a physicality perspective, it's the most intimidating of the lifts, I think, and then probably bench and then deadlift after. So I asked, what percentages are you dealing with, or what numbers? And essentially the numbers that she's talking about, where she's starting to feel this sense of fear and panic and anxiety, is around 80%. And so as she builds up to this weight and starts getting near that 80% mark, that anxiety starts to set in. So I asked to kind of describe the training a little bit, just so I could kind of understand the situation and the context of it. But really, I think if we're being honest with ourselves, this is something that everyone experiences, I believe, at some point in time. Whether you're a brand new lifter or you've even been in the game for a little while, if you've been in the game long enough and you've kind of gotten yourself over that fear of the weight, I don't know if you ever really get over the fear of the weight, to be honest. But if you don't find yourself intimidated by the weight, at some point in time you probably were. When you're in high school or whatever it was, and you're like, oh my God, 3 wheels, or oh my God, whatever that benchmark was that in your head you thought was big lifting. You had that moment of pause when you're thinking, oh shit, can I really do this? And we all know the answer is yeah, you probably can do this. But the head game, getting yourself mentally wired, getting yourself into the lift, it can be hard sometimes. So what I recommended was find a way to get yourself acclimated to the weight. So my recommendation was to do some walkouts with the weight. Get yourself set up, load yourself up to 100% or whatever your target goal is for the meet, and get it on your back. If your target goal for that meet is 800 pounds and that 800 pound mark is intimidating for you, then you load up 800 pounds and you stand up with it and you hold it and you feel that weight, because it gives you an opportunity to get used to it, to touch it, to feel it, to understand how it's going to make you feel when you stand under that weight. Now, I don't think anything really perfectly emulates meet day, because it's different. You got the adrenaline, it's the moment, it's different. Everything feels different on meet day. But I feel like the more you touch something, the more that you do something, the more that you're exposed to that thing, that stimulus, the easier and easier it gets. Remember the first time you started driving? how intimidating that was, wondering if you were doing everything right. Should I change lanes? Am I going the right speed? How do I merge into a highway? Like all those things that might have intimidated you at that moment, but now, after having years of experience of doing that thing, you don't even think about it anymore. Hell, half the time you're not even paying attention. Most of us have our phones in our hands or whatever the hell else. We do this thing that used to be this very intimidating experience, now not even really focusing on what we're doing. Not that that's great, but the point is you've done it so many times, you're no longer intimidated by it. It doesn't even faze you anymore. So again, back to the recommendation of doing some static holds, stand up with the weight, do walkouts, set rack height to a certain point where you can walk out, and even if you slip or fall or whatever, the worst happens, the racks are right there and will catch you, and you're not going to fall and get hurt. And do that, and do walkout, walk it out, walk it back in, and so you slowly start exposing yourself to that weight for a longer and longer period of time. After you've done some static holds for a period of time, and you're used to that, no longer intimidated by the static holds, and you've done the walkouts for a couple iterations, whatever that might be, and for everyone it probably will be different. It might be a week, it might be a couple of weeks, whatever. You do the static holds, you do the walkouts, right? And you no more fear. You're feeling good. You can walk it out, you can stand in static hold and walk it back in. The next iteration of that would be to do a controlled descent, I think. So instead of having the rack heights, the safety bars real high, start lowering those safety bars. And you walk the weight back, and then you do an eccentric phase. Lower that weight down till you catch yourself into the safety bars. And that way you begin to get experience descending with that weight, knowing what that's going to feel like. And if you still find yourself intimidated, you're slowly warming up to the moment of truth when you actually return with the weight by iteration after iteration, lowering that safety bar. And again, it might be a day that you do this. It might be over the course of several weeks. You move at your own pace. You'll know what's right. But eventually, you can get those safety racks to the point where you're going to be able to do a full squat and not have them interrupt the eccentric phase of the movement. So you complete the eccentric phase, and then you work on the concentric. Get down to the bottom and try to explode through it. And hopefully, if you've gotten to that point, you're no longer intimidated by the weight, and you're no longer afraid of what that represents. And you hopefully will be able to move yourself past that sticking point. Because I think what intimidates us is the unknown. What intimidates us is not knowing how it will feel, not knowing how it will respond, not knowing. I think that's what intimidates us. But the more that you do it, the more that you expose yourself to it, the more that you touch it and have an experience with that thing that's intimidating, whether it be driving a car or squatting, you are going to develop an awareness of it. You're going to develop a sense of ability where it starts becoming second nature, and it's no longer intimidating. So that's really the tip. That's what I said, and that's what I believe. I think that if you have a similar experience where you are intimidated by a weight, I think this works for squat, obviously, but I also think it works for bench as well. And with deadlift, you can always let go. If you're in the middle of a pull, you can always let go. But same with the deadlift. If you're having trouble at a certain point in the lift, you might try some pin pulls at varying heights along the movement, and just get yourself used to being able to move a certain weight through a certain range of motion. And again, I think that you'd be able to overcome that fear if it happened to be a deadlift. Anyway, guys, that's the video. I hope that you liked it. I hope that it helps. I hope that maybe this means something for somebody out there that kind of feels the same way that my friend did. And I know that if you give this a whirl, or maybe try a few other tricks, I know that you can get yourself over that hump, and that weight that is intimidating you now will be warm-up weight for you at some point in time in the near future. So just bear that in mind. You're not as strong yet as you will be soon. And none of us are everything that we're going to be. But we're working on it, and that's what makes this so exciting. If you have any questions, leave them down below. I'd love to respond to anything that you guys have. We've had some recent subscribers jumping into the channel, and I'm going to pull up my my little notification box here so I can give you an appropriate holler and thank you, because I really do appreciate it so much when people jump into the channel. I want to thank Chris Martinez for jumping on. I want to thank David Johns, and I also want to thank Dan Butler. You know, there's been a kind of a spike in subscribers lately, and I don't know what I'm doing right or what's going on, but I really do appreciate when people come and join the channel. It means a lot to me, because helping people and you know, maybe being a sense of inspiration, I don't know. Being able to help people and being able to communicate and seeing that external confirmation really means a lot to me. So thank you, thank you, thank you. If you guys have any ideas for upcoming videos or something that you want to see, something that I might be able to help you with, let me know. I'd love to be able to make a response video for a particular question. And I think that's about it, guys. You know, share the video, like the video. You know, if you haven't subscribed yet, I'd appreciate that too. And remember, guys, no matter what it is that you think that you can't do, whether it be some weight that, you know, right now is intimidating, or you feel like you have some kind of a limitation, you got to find a way to train despite, and I promise whatever that thing is that intimidates you, someday won't. And that's what this is all about. So I appreciate you guys checking out the video, and we'll catch you in the next one. See ya.